Welcome back to the Center Ring Esports Podcast, episode 291, presented by Alt. This is going to be the best episode ever. We have Yikes of the Week, a handful to get to as we had a busy week despite the holiday. Also, a very special guest joins us, RaptorZ head coach of Moon Raccoons, the Valorant Orgless team, by the way. And of course, we finally have it, First Strike. It is right around the corner, so we will discuss a little bit of NA, a little bit of EU First Strike, and then of course E-News to wrap up the show. But before we get to any of that, got to tell you about the show sponsor with Alt Esports, altesports.com. That's ULT esports.com. The best apparel esports has to offer. Right now, you can go, if you're listening live on Twitch, YouTube, whatever, you can go right now, and they are still having their Black Friday deals. And I'm sure, going into the week and Cyber Monday, you can still hit them up. It is the promo code 40SHOP, 40SHOP. That will get you a fat 40% off your entire order of any of the collections from the Overwatch League or Call of Duty. I'm talking the Essentials. I'm talking Doodle. I'm talking the Expressionist, the 90s series, which they also just released a very limited edition black hoodie for that. Badass stuff. Just in time for Christmas. You can get yourself or your loved ones some nice alt gear. Very comfy, very high quality. Look, it's worth full price. And now you're getting it for 40% off. That's like getting it for free. You're robbing them. So go to altesports.com and hit up their deals while they're there and tell them the TCR boys sent you.
This is RaptorZ, the coach of Moon Raccoons. Valorant is awesome and can't wait for the future of Valorant. You guys are listening to the Center Ring podcast.
Okay, so let's start.
Hello, everybody. Hello and welcome back to another edition of the Center Ring, aka TCR, aka your favorite esports podcast presented by Alt. This is episode 291 coming to you live and or pre-recorded from an undisclosed location. The date, 11/29/2020. The time is 8:51 p.m. Central Time. Go ahead and follow us on Twitter at The Center Ring. Our Discord is in the description there. Our website, tcr.gg, it is back up and running. Blogs and things like that are soon to come. But if you ever wanted to contact us or anything like that, catch old videos, things like that, that's all available, tcr.gg. And, of course, on Twitter, like I said, at The Center Ring. Hello. My name is Tim. I will be your captain for this journey into esports, and alongside me, as always, is my best friend, my brown friend. It's Anuj. What's up? And you've been on mute. I just wanted to see how long you'd go.
I was going for a while.
I know.
I was even drinking water over here. I didn't want to, the gulps to come on.
It looked like you were crushing it. You were like, I was watching and you were so excited. I didn't want to tell you were on mute, but we already kicked off. Good coming back from a holiday exactly the way we ended with your microphone on mute.
I was talking about the holiday.
Oh.
I gave you a whole story about how I'm so sad that this 5-day holiday is now coming to an abrupt end. Back to work on Monday. I'm just, you come back from playing games with the boys. Like, we gamed so much this long weekend, which was awesome with Shadowlands out. I know a lot of us have been crushing that, but crushing some food, watching some football or whatever it is the Cowboys are playing nowadays, and now back to reality.
Yep. See, I do the heads up play. So my anniversary was on the 26th, which was also happened to be Thanksgiving. So we didn't get to really do a whole lot, right? You're busy doing family stuff, whatnot, holiday things.
Happy 4-year.
Thank you. So I took Monday off. Most people will take Black Friday off. No. That's a rookie move. Rookies take off Black Friday unless you're like you, where your work just gives you Black Friday off. Then that's a different story. But I
The
take
rookie
Monday.
move is your company not just giving you Black Friday off.
Well, but when
Like
you
the
work,
day after
but
Thanksgiving.
when you work in the
know?
market, when you work in finance, Anuj, and the market's open, you kind of have to be open.
Yeah, that's tough. Maybe
Yeah.
like do a skeleton crew, like
Yeah.
half people work one year, half work the next.
No. So it's it's fine. It's fine. But yeah, I have Monday off, so I'll still be able to game some tonight. But overall, good holiday. No complaints. The Lions, Cowboys both sucked. Is as tradition. I wouldn't expect anything else. But
Yeah, but the Cowboys made us watch until the fourth quarter,
yeah,
which was like defeating. Like we thought we had a chance, and then all of a sudden,
Lions did fire their head coach and GM.
that's like exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I've
like,
been waiting for that for
Yeah,
all
for you, at
season.
least now you see a little bit of hope, right? Like, just a new coach in here, change the scheme a little bit, focus on the day to
Well,
day, the normal football talk,
it's
and
it's always good too. Like new
maybe
owner, get in there, you cut bait halfway through, little over halfway through, and we move on. So that's what you want to see. And I wouldn't
making
expect
tough
anything else.
decisions. Yeah,
Wouldn't expect anything else. But it was a good holiday. So hopefully everyone had a good holiday. It's crazy that you only take one episode off, and yet it feels like it's been weeks since we've discussed anything esports related. So let's get into some of the yikes of the week. I have a couple to get to. I have a bonus yikes for you. But I'll go with my my first one here. And this is in regards to CSGO Source 2, nonetheless. Now, Source 2 is this mythical beast that we've heard about for years, that one day it will be out. One day it will be released and we'll be able to enjoy it. No one really knows what it is, but we all know we'll see it. Like, when you see it, you'll know it. But no one really knows. Like, and even if you ask people what Source 2 is, they'll be like, well, it's like a UI change. Oh no, it's a whole graphics update. No, it's this. It's all new servers. It's all, we'll get 124 tick, and that's the blah blah blah. And like, no one really knows what this is. But an ex CS:GO dev, I should say, Richard Geldrick is how I'm going to say his name. He spoke out over the week on his tweets and said that the development of Source 2 for CSGO is one of the most toxic work cultures at Valve, or in general, that he has ever been a part of. First off, he started off right off the bat that Source 2 has been in development for 10 years.
that sounds about right. Since they've been working on Half-Life 3, roughly.
Didn't CSGO just celebrate what? How old is CSGO? I mean, CS just celebrated its like 20th year.
Yeah, it's like 6-7 years old, maybe around there.
So how is Source 2 being in development half the lifespan of Counter-Strike?
Who knows? All I know is Riot and Blizzard are back there saying, thank God we're not alone. Like, y'all are doing some stuff too. We knew y'all weren't perfect. So I just know that's probably the excitement coming from the other side of the aisle.
Riot's just saying, like, please be a sexual assault charge. Please be because that's the thing too. It's like, all he said was it was super toxic. A lot of outside devs don't even want to work with Valve anymore because of just how toxic it was. But he never went into detail. Like, he just gave you like a taste. He didn't give you the dish. It was all just appetizers. He never said exactly what made it toxic, and everyone's like, all right. Like,
It's like you're just saying it. Hey, it sucked to work here. Why? It just did.
it just did. I wouldn't
Yeah,
recommend it.
Oh yeah, I give it 1 star on Glassdoor or something. No, I mean, yeah, I mean it. Okay, again, thanks. Sure. Like, I need information for it to, or either what this could lead to, other people maybe coming out and speaking on it and giving detail of their stories or whatever. But until there's more info, it's just.
And
okay,
do we care?
Okay.
Do we care?
I mean, I guess it depends on what the issue is, right?
Sure. If Gaben was like, putting dog leashes on his employees, I guess that's a different story than just, did he yell at you?
Yeah, did he hurt your feelings?
Right. It's
Like, Did he red eye you, or like was it worse?
Was it your job to wipe off his ass sweat from his workout ball he sits on instead of a chair? Like, was it your turn to clean it one day, or like what is the deal here? Like, the word toxic has turned into a catch-all of just a situation you thought they were mean in. So, I don't know. I need deets. I need the deets to really know if I should be grabbing my torch and pitchfork on Valve right now.
Yeah, to like move this to the story section, we just need more.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like right now, it's just somebody complaining about his job. But I'll give it to you. It's yikes, because it's at least something coming out of that corner.
Yikes
Don't
was
hear
more so
much,
the
right?
fact that he said 10 years. Like, I don't understand how a Source 2 can be in development for 10 years on a game that's 20.
Maybe it was just always like we're looking to upgrade this engine to that eventually.
That's what I'm
and
assuming.
It's like
in development is very loose. Like they wrote it on a whiteboard and circled it, and then it sat there for 6 years, and then decided, okay,
maybe we should start working on this.
Yeah, let's look into this. That's what I think.
Yeah. No, that's again, with Valve, everything's slow, right? So even if that was the case 10 years, I'd be like, okay, it's kind of how they operate. It feels like that's how long it is in between operations, right? Like we've been over a year, it feels like, since our last operation now. So not surprising with them. We're gonna stay Counter-Strike heavy, Tim, on Yikes of the Week here. Recently, Crims from our lovely Fnatic was handed a VAC ban on his Steam profile account. Obviously, with Fnatic, they all cheat, so it's probably true, right?
Very true.
Like Flusha, JW, they're all hacking, so most likely this is a true and positive VAC ban. But yeah, he was recently VAC banned. It looks like there's a good chance that this gets overturned sooner rather than later. It will get overturned regardless. It's just how quickly this process is going to take. But it looks like it happened through esports portal, or esports portal, or however you want to pronounce it. They have a third party service. Think of it like a Faceit, ESEA, that you can go play on. Something did not align between their servers and the VAC servers, and they're taking the blame for it. They did not specify Crim's name in their statement that they released, but they're saying that they believe that is the issue.
Well, it's been a number of their clients. A number of their clients have been banned, so that's connecting the dots of like, oh, either all of our clients just got together and decided to cheat, or maybe it's people using our software.
No, the bigger yikes that's going to come from this is like, yes, Crim's VAC is going to get overturned. I hope that it's like any player that received a ban, sees the same type of treatment here in terms of getting it reversed, because that does suck. Like that ruins. That's a huge stain on your account, whether you're in esports or not.
Yeah,
right?
It's a scarlet letter for sure.
Yeah, like 100%. You see that on somebody's account, you don't even give them don't even give them a second to really explain anymore. It's just like, yep, cheated or whatever, so but yeah, it looks like it will get overturned. We're just waiting for the when here, but it is funny because it does now limit what he's able to play in, and it does have to be reviewed because technically he is going to be banned from playing.
And the reason that, I was going to say, and that's why this is such a big deal too. Like you're thinking, oh, okay, well, whatever, he's VAC, they'll worry, he can still go play other like Faceits and things like that. It's just main matchmaking and things that might affect him. The issue with this, though, is because you don't officially know what the ban was for, there are a lot of tournament organizers where the rules are, if you are VAC banned, you cannot play while you're VAC banned. And you really can't make exceptions because it's Crims and you're like, okay, there's no way you cheated, right? Because you say that about everyone until they actually cheat, right? So I think that's the more important thing. Valve really needs to,
Do you think a TO would actually hold him out from an event?
I would say,
like you said, just because it's Crims, I almost feel like just because it is Crims, it is more likely that they would make an exception for a play. Like if you haven't
I'll tell you this,
that type of like,
I would hope they wouldn't make I hope it wouldn't just be a fast exception. Like I hope it wouldn't just be like, nope, he can do it, it's fine with us. But I do think like they are expediting their research right? They are calling every contact at Valve, and it doesn't even have to be like 100% clear. Like, just tell me it wasn't for like aim botting.
Whispers that it's like anything,
Yes.
anything else.
Tell
yeah.
me it's,
You know, I think
say it's third party, and that's all I need to know, and boom, he can play again.
with that esports portal, if their statement also, if they can tie the two, right? Like right now, we don't know that we're actually, Crims was actually banned for that reason. But if they can kind of both work together and give that information to TOs, I would hope it's enough for
Yeah.
him to continue playing without any hiccups. Because again, if anybody has deserved that level of respect, you would think it's somebody like him, right? At least on that level.
Crims has the record for most kills in a game. Is that true?
I'm gonna look that up while you're.
I'm
while you're going there.
99% sure that's like a random CS:GO fun fact that you would never think it was Crims, but I think he had like the most kills on a map or something. Like, it was only like last year that he did it, and it was nuts. I think that's a fun fact. I mean, the esports award should figure this out. They do have a lifetime achievement award after all. Surely they have all the records and keep track of all this, right? But look that up. Look that up and get back to me. But I think Crims does have like a fun little record for Counter-Strike you wouldn't think he would have. My bonus Yikes. I have a bonus Yikes for you. And this comes from Cloud9. So, of course, Black Friday, which is now just turned into like a giant week-long thing of companies trying to get rid of their extra inventory. I will say this, as an adult, I have turned that corner where I'm not just buying things for the sake of buying it. Like, I haven't bought one thing, Steam sale aside, because that's different, right? Like, if a game goes on sale for $3, I'm just going to pick it up. But
Did you buy some games just now or something?
yeah, I mean, I've bought like some racing games, that I've had but it's like literally like they're on sale like 85% off. They're $3. So
yeah,
I'm
grab it.
Yeah, I could play it for an hour and I would feel like I got my money's worth. But I do racing, so I don't mind it. But for like keyboards or mice or things like that, it's like, wow, this mouse is $80. What a great deal. But it's still $80, right? My one weakness is normally Cloud9. Normally I will treat myself to some Cloud9 merch because they normally run some pretty good deals. Well, that is until you put the things in your cart, and then you get to your cart, and it's minimum, no adjusting, $24 shipping.
Was it going to be brought to you within the next 30 minutes?
Like, I'm paying more
What
for
were you getting?
a hat and a shirt, hold it, that would cost me $20. The shipping was going to be more than the items I was purchasing.
Like US based too.
Yeah.
That's kind of random.
Like, I'm like, guys, do you not, like, I almost wanted to like message them and being like, I think something's wrong with your site. I want to buy your product, but I just, as a human being in these times, Anuj,
You can't do that.
$24?
You can't do that. I mean, what's the minimum you would have to spend to pay if I told you had to pay $24 for shipping?
I mean, I would think it would have to be like, oh, you know what's funny is like, even like because I'm going pre-built for my next computer, because again, I'm just at a point in my life where I don't want to put together a computer. I know that as a PC master race, there are a lot of listeners shunning me right now, saying, how dare you buy pre-built? But hey, have children and get married, and looks pretty damn appealing getting that pre-built. Even that's like $24 for shipping. It's like, I guess I'll do it. It still seems crazy high, but sure, $24 shipping sounds pretty good for a computer.
Yeah, like if we're not talking about something incredibly heavy, that's a little different, right? That's pretty heavy. So
Yeah. I guess heavy wise,
not bad, but like I would think like $300-400 at least minimum.
Yeah,
to like get that.
Or it's like if you're like you said, like if it's
somebody
like
from Cloud9's listening, maybe there's like this is an error. So hopefully we've just helped you out, and you can go fix
boost
this.
those
Tim can go
sales.
in there. What's up?
Boost them sales up.
Yeah, you got Cyber Monday is like tomorrow.
I feel bad for
So-
like the kids or the parents that went there and like, well, okay, I guess $24. That's the going rate nowadays, Corona and all, and then they just
Like,
pay
it's-
$24.
This esports really is expensive.
Yeah, right. It's like, well, okay, I guess
For
100
shipping like
thieves.
that, you should get like Stratus membership for a month.
Yeah, 100, maybe that's what it is. If you get Stratus membership, you get cheaper
$3
shipping. So they hiked up their shipping. So
They Amazon Prime it to you if you get Stratus.
yeah, so that's just my jaw dropped and a tear fell from my eye because I was really ready to get some Cloud9 merch, but no,
Well, I'm glad you didn't do it.
no.
That would
I
be-
have
that
I'm
would
a
be
man with
disappointing.
principles, Anuj, and $24 shipping is one of them. I draw the line. In fact,
Dude,
I was going to buy the Fnatic soccer ball when that came out, but I think that was like $25 shipping, which would have made it like a $50 soccer ball, which I'm like, no, I'm not.
can't do that.
I could go to Target and get a $5 soccer ball and
Yeah,
then
but the
draw
one probably
Fnatic.
looks cool.
Yeah, I could get a Fnatic sticker and slap it on that soccer ball, and it'd be the same thing. So, but that was international, so at least I could kind of understand it. But this, no, not happening. Not happening. All right, so there it is. There's some yikes of the week as we were catching up here. We also, though, have a very special guest joining us next. It is RaptorZ head coach of the Moon Raccoons. He joined us earlier in the week before Thanksgiving. We recorded the interview. So let's play that for you and enjoy. Our next guest on the Centering Esports podcast has been the talk of the town, the belle of the ball. It is former Overwatch coach, now a top 10 Valorant coach. It is coach of the Moon Raccoons, RaptorZ. How's it going, man?
It's going good. It's going good. How you guys doing?
Can't complain. As we said pre-interview, I think we're all on that WoW grind. So it's exciting. Is it, as a coach, is it easy to balance, and we'll say WoW time, with like actual like Valorant you need to pay attention time?
In some sense, it's always a lifelong struggle. I think everyone will always have that struggle between work, personal life, hobbies, these kinds of things. But for me, it's kind of been, as I've gotten older, I've kind of learned to balance what is time for me to relieve myself mentally so I can refresh and get going. And since my passion and drive is very high right now in Valorant, especially with the team and the players right now, it's really easy to immediately go back and say, like, I want to work on things. So it's very high passion. But generally, I approach hobbies, and if it's real life stuff, of course, you need to take care of it. But I approach hobbies as an opportunity to reset, to recenter myself, so that I can approach things with the most clear mind. Because I am kind of, as the coach, you really are on a big onus to make sure you evaluate things from all perspectives. That you don't just automatically knee jerk to the best. What is the best option? No, there's probably a better option if you take the time to think about it. So that's how I've always approached it.
Now, I got the hardest hitting question that it really should have been question number one, Tim. You have the best name in esports, Moon Raccoons. Who came up with it? Where does this name come from?
So there's a couple of people who've already spoke on this. Rebo and Skelly actually tweeted out about it today. He was part of the original roster when we first farmed it. But it's an inspiration from the formula that Bazooka Puppies, the European free agency team a couple years back, we took from, which is basically you take a cute animal and then just some kind of extra word that just doesn't make sense, right? So they did bazooka puppy, right? Like it's a puppy, but they have bazookas on the back, so it gets you thinking, like, what's going on? So we're like, raccoons are like, yeah, but by themselves, no one's gonna like a raccoon, but what if it's on the moon? And then from there, we were just like, yep, okay, Moon Raccoon. So it was a joint effort between, at the time, Rebo and I, and then the original players on the team, and Skelly was a big voice as well. So kind of just spawned from that idea.
Now that you say that, I'm like rifting through my head of other names, and I guess you're right. You might get in trouble for that, RaptorZ, because you just broke the code in esports on how to name an org. But you Moon Raccoons, like you said, Bazooka Puppies, Laser Kittens. I remember Laser Kittens.
Yep, they're another big one.
Yep. Yeah, I guess that's what it is. You just take an animal.
Tim and I are going to go through names later on after the show.
Yeah, now that I'm going to stay, it's going to be like 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to text a news like, oh my God, I remembered one. So, okay. All right. Let me get to then Moon Raccoons, because you guys really have been I mean, First Strike has launched you guys into the next level of talk, especially with Valorant. What's that been like to go from a unranked, still orgless team, but now you find yourself in the top 10 best in the world?
It's been an amazing experience to kind of sum it up shortly, and I'll go into that. But it's just like everything about it has been amazing, from the experience within scrims, matches, the atmosphere with the team, the interaction with fans has been something I've never experienced before. I never really worked with a free agency team and built up in Overwatch. So this has been a really first experience on that, but it's been amazing. Um, but in terms of specifics, the kind of a lot of our goal is environment focused, and that's a lot of what I focus on as a coach. Is I think of my job as to enable and create structures and environments that make the players push themselves, but also be able to have a unity with each other. Because when things are stressful, when matches are happening, whatever it is, players need to be able to act in tandem and need to be understanding of what the others are doing and be able to act off that quickly. So I value environment a lot. And so a lot of our practice reflects that. And what ends up happening is you get feedback from every single player. And as we've been going along, yeah, we've had our tough practice days. We've had our easy practice days because we really got our ideas and our lessons down, and things were working out the way they're supposed to. But every single day, it's still the same where, players are hanging out afterwards. Sometimes I'll be hanging out with the players afterwards. And there's just that environment of everyone can really speak openly to each other. And so having that like genuine environment, and something I really wanted to always create, having that in tandem where the players really feel that same vision and idea, and it's all really working out, it's been amazing, because the reception has just been uh, something that every single turn there's just a smile on my face, or the players will show something and brings a smile to their face. And then at the same time, when it comes to practice, our goals are still the same in terms of environment growth, and working with one another to push each other to the best that we can be. So it's really just been an amazing, genuine experience so far, and this is something I'm never going to forget.
I gotta ask, like, y'all have had plenty of success even prior to First Strike. Y'all had, played Gen G. I think y'all had a good game against Anbox in the Renegades tournament that they held. I want to know, was there a turning point or a game in particular for this team where it went from, yeah, we think we belong, to like, we know we belong? Was there one of those defining games where it was like, okay, now we know this practice is paying off. We know where we kind of stand amongst the elite. Yeah, I just want to know if there was a moment there.
Um, I don't think that there ever really was one game or one match, because the other thing about this is it's kind of like a two-pronged question, because we also, for the when we first lost to Ambox and then we beat them in the second series we played, we had Sean for both of those. And so there was also a natural like kind of double honeymoon period where we were playing with Sean. Things were going amazingly, integrating him. Sean is an amazing player. He's incredibly talented and incredibly receptive to feedback, and obviously a very natural pickup for Genji. So when we picked up Profi, again, we had that natural boom where Profi is very much about environment. His communication is active. He's working with everyone. He's receptive to feedback. He gives feedback. So we had that kind of nice little honeymoon phase. But for all the players who are on it, besides Sean and Profi, especially because I've been working now with Rebo for a while, when we first built the first iteration, we've always kind of had that mentality that we do belong. And part of that mentality is there is an ego to it, in the sense like, we want to be the best, so therefore we need to think of ourselves as the best. But there's the other side of it too, that we really want to prove to a lot of people that we understand Valorant different, that Valorant isn't CS, Valorant isn't Overwatch, like it is a new game. And so we're trying to really kind of go at it from an approach of, we are Valorant, the way we approach it, the way we talk about strats, the way we look at it, CS knowledge we bring in, of course, but we really try to innovate in that respect. So we've always felt like we belonged. And I would definitely say the second Ambox match, and definitely the qualifier run where we ran over a phase, like those kind of matches really signified it for us. But it's always been in the back of our hearts, in the back of our heads, and it's something I really preach too, in terms of, yes, our goal is winning, but we're not there to win. Our goal is to produce and play good Valorant. So if we focus on the process of the plays, we focus on the proper usage, util, steps, positions, whatever it may be, right? That process is going to lead to game-winning plays. So you don't need to focus on the wins. You focus on the process that gets you there. And so there's been a lot of effort from that. And so we kind of been, in some sense, tunneled, right? Like it's kind of all been a surprise now that we've had a chance to sit back. And I wouldn't even say a surprise. We really wanted to be top four. So, but it has definitely been a nonstop kind of realization, to be honest, as each match we keep doing better and better, because it's really proving what we think.
Is it a chip on the shoulder for you and the boys at this point to still be orgless?
No. I mean, of course, we were actively looking for an org to sponsor us, and that's something that we're working all with our agents, of course. But it would be a crazy idea, and it's something we've all joked about in the back. Like, what if somebody comes in and is like, "Hey, we'll give you a bunch of money and turn Moon Raccoons into a brand?" Like, that'd be crazy. Like going the Astralis direction. Obviously, that'd be something absolutely amazing. But the one thing that, of course, the real side of that is that Astralis was first TSM. They accrued a capital. They really saw the process out. They saw how teams worked before they went into it. A lot of us, I mean, I have some of the most experience in terms, besides Profi, in terms of like a organized league environment, because Profi played PUBG where there wasn't that, Overwatch League structure in place. And even then, I still know I have a lot to learn before I could be, entertaining those ideas. So it would be really cool, though. It's something we definitely have joked about and laughed about and had plenty of funny conversations about.
Now I know you can't like give away anything, but Tim and I talked about this on our last episode. After first strike, I should say, we discussed you guys, and we were saying, we feel like it would be easy for y'all to get an org behind you at this point, right? Like you have skins on the wall. It's not like it was a one-time run that you made through first strike. Like you've shown consistency. Is that kind of the case where you guys are getting a lot of options and it's a matter of picking and choosing, or do you feel like you're still waiting for that right one at this point?
The best way that I can say it is we're really comfortable with our position right now. And I think that at the end of the day, with the work we've put in, we are definitely in a position where there isn't another peer, like, or I guess a free agency team that is at the position we are at.
Mhm.
And so there is definitely a lot that's going on. We're very happy about. But we'll have to see how it all ends up. At the end of the day, it is a matter of business. So what's happening now, 2 weeks from now, not 100% sure, but our work has been incredible. And something I say every day is whatever happens, I don't really care, because what we've done as a team so far is we've proven a lot to each other. It's about creating a core that sticks together. It's another really like big creed of the roster is we do want to stick together if all possible, because synergy, teamwork, these things aren't built in a week. They aren't built in a month. They're built over a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, a lot of time put in from everyone. And as a result, if you have to change pieces or keep changing pieces, it is going to make it difficult. But at the same time, we are a free agency team, so there is a lot of uncertainty coming up. But we're in a position where there's a lot of free agency teams that would want to be in our position. That's for sure.
They said this on the broadcast, I think before your TSM match. They said it at one point during one of your matches where, in interviews, the players have always talked about how, you're in it to win it, but you're also here, like, most importantly, to have fun. Do you feel like that is easier to say because you are an orgless team and like you kind of are the Cinderella story that everyone's rooting for? At what point do you feel like, when you are an org, like that now puts a target on your back?
I mean, it definitely naturally does, and there's no way to avoid that as you move up, right? Of course, the pressure, the expectation, like these things kind of naturally exist, but kind of that's why the core of the philosophy of the team, and something that I've been going out and studying a lot. Like before I got into Valorant, I studied a lot of OG and Liquid coming from Dota. They were teams that were very close to me. I've been looking a lot more at Stralis, and I'm now looking out to a lot more coaches from sports. And a lot of the ideas at the end of the day is if you focus on winning, you create an artificial pressure. Oh, we have to win this match. We have to win this tournament. We have to win all this. But at the end of the day, really, you don't have to win. Like there is an element at the end of the day, you're going to live and learn. But the second side of it is if you truly want to win, the process of winning needs to be good. Not the outcome, but the process. If the process is good, the outcome will always be good. So if the plays, the time put in, the practice, the goals of the week, the goals of the day, the one-on-ones with the players, the how much they understand executes or their role in a comp in the map given a situation, all of these factors go into if that process is good and they're comfortable with it in the moment, they're going to kill it. They're going to do exactly what they need to. They're going to instinctually play well. They're going to communicate well, and they're going to run it over, right? But if there's a focus of we need to win and that is your focus, then you're skipping over all of the process and the foundation that leads to winning. So a lot of my focus is that. So getting an org would never change that, and that is something that I will always stand by. What I've said is no matter what happens, nothing has changed for us, because at the end of the day, it is a philosophy and a core to us. Because the teams that win the biggest championships never focused on winning. They focused on being the best at what they did. And the result of that is winning. So if you can achieve the first part, you will achieve the second part, no matter what.
You
If
know, I
you
want to ask a little bit
do,
more.
I was gonna say, if you do need artificial pressure ever on the guys, like if ever you think they're just slacking, getting big headed, you let us know, and we'll just slide a message, slide a DM so they don't know it, and then we'll rip them on the show and be like, guys, Center Ring Esports Podcast is like trashing you right now, and we'll do that for you.
Plant the story ourselves.
Yeah, we will plant
I'll
the
use
seed
this-
of pressure.
This will be my secret weapon.
Right?
ready
Yeah,
for
we
it.
really turn things around. Don't worry.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious because we're in such a unique situation with Valorant where there are coming into the game, there's already so many big names, right? Because they're coming from other esports, well known. Obviously, your Sinatras, Mixwells, Wardells, like these guys were all pretty well known within their own scene. Obviously, some more than others, but still a lot of those names out there, Nitro and things like that. Is there any sort of, what's the word I'm looking for here? But like, I don't want to say intimidation because that's not necessarily the word, but like awe when you play some of these guys, if you know their history, like Hikos and things like that. Like, is there any sort of like, oh shit, like look who we're up against? Even though it is a new game and everyone's technically new for the first time here, there's just like well-known names in this scene already. So any of that going on at all?
At first, there was, of course, the natural side of it, but for us, really, it's been more of a sudden realization that idols for a lot of the players are becoming rivals is kind of the way, and we've joked about that, and we kind of bring it up because, of course, these are things that we need to externalize, we need to process, we need to sift through, so the players don't think about this in tournament situation. And all of the players have been handling it incredibly well, and I think a big part of it too is that the four that come from CS, Temp, Rebo, Alex, as well as Fiend, all had, in terms of close to semi-pro CS experience. They've played against a lot of top CS players. They've been either up into MDL or play in advanced playoffs. They've been in relegation matches to get into MDL. So they've had a lot of top CS experience against a lot of top, well, at least some pretty accomplished semi-pros, if not some of the pros who went through. Especially for a good example, one of the teams that Rebo was playing against during one of his ESEA seasons, we were talking about this recently, was Furia. And at first he was like, oh, this team's never going to be good. All they do is run at you. And then, turns out they created their own meta. And he was like, wow, I kind of realized then that any team can make it. They just need to be a team. So that helped him a lot too. But again, back to the point in terms of that kind of star power, it doesn't affect us because I really also preach an ego of they're the best on the server. And it's something also Rebo really reinforces. And it's something the players have really bought into. When we get on the server, no matter the performance, we should always have the thought process we're the best on the server. We put the time in, we practice hard. Players are deathmatching, players are putting in agent practice, rank practice, scrims, custom times, review. Why should we be afraid? Right. This is our game too. And we can stand toe to toe. And I will always kind of back that up because they need to have that ego, especially in a game like Valorant that as that tactical shooter CS nature, where one shot can change everything. If a player is afraid, they're never going to be in the position to take the angle they need to. So I definitely always push away that side of, let's be scared because they're good. No, disrespect them, prove you're better, take that extra peek. If we need to reel it back, we'll reel it back. We'll figure it out, right? But if we're afraid at the first step, we're never going to be able to take enough ground to be able to win.
So let me ask you this then, going off of that. I'm going to give you a scenario, and you give me what you give the players in the locker room. I want to hear your coach's speech here, okay? It is finals of a tournament. Best of 5, map 5. It's been grueling. It's been hours you've been playing.
It's split.
It's split. And you guys find out you're starting on attack. What's the pep talk here? Because right now, I'm just forfeiting if I'm on the team. I'm like, attack on split, I'm done. What's the pep talk?
The biggest thing is making it to finals. We accomplished everything we needed to. We're at the top of the tournament. It's the last game of the tournament. Everyone's watching us. This is exactly what we want. We're here to have fun. Whatever happens in the game, win or lose, feed, slay, it doesn't matter. We're going to do it as a team. We're going to go in. We're going to have a good time. And the end result is going to be us playing the game that we've always practiced. We also have been practicing split very hard. It is one of the maps we worked very hard going into First Strike. We're confident with it. Our T side has been very strong. And at the end of the day, if we do it as a team, there's nothing that can stop us. So we get out there, we win together, lose together, feed together, slay together, and don't care. Or if foul language is allowed, we use the phrase don't give a fuck a lot, because that's something that really echoes the idea of who cares. As long as we play to win, we did what we needed to do.
Tim and I are about to go tear up some gold
I'm
right
jacked.
after this. I'm
I'm-
jacked. I'm ready to go.
Gold
I'm ready to
2
go.
has
Gold
never
3,
seen.
here we come,
Yeah.
baby.
They've never seen anything like us. Is it possible? Now, speaking of gold, don't let that fool you, Raptors, because Anuj and I, we're gold players. We are immortal Icebox players, though.
That is true.
That is our map. I know a lot of the pros have been outspoken that they don't like it. So if you do need advice after the interview, hit us up. But is it possible that that is worse than Split?
So the issue with Split is it's choke heavy. Like it's just really restrictive in terms of taking space because you have to penetrate a lot of chokes. And as a result, you end up having to use a lot of utility. You put yourself in a lot of risk. It's just very annoying from the attacker's side to accomplish what you want to without at least exchanging heavy resources or bodies. The thing about Icebox that's really frustrating is it's so open in terms of both verticality, but also if you notice it's the first site in the game or the first map in the game where there's actually an objective before the site. Pretty much every single Valorant right now is spawn on both sides with sites on the left and right, and then maybe some middle map. But there's no like positions in front of the sites that T side or attacker side can take control of and be able to exert that presence to be able to then go into an execute. It's right out of spawn. You're controlling right outside of hookah, say on bind, or right outside of long. Like the point of conflict is right there. So Icebox has a much more middle ground, which means there's more room to play positions, create ideas, setups, etc., and abuse that. As well as because of the verticality, there's a lot of angles, and that angle variance in angle means that it is at a point where you could have, pretty much the right flashes, pretty much the right peak, and somebody could still be at an awkward off angle, or like say you're attacking a site, like the attacking side can come from main. They could be up in their side center tube, peeking from that window. They could be peeking from the ramp up to the top right. They could be on the second level from that. You could have somebody jump onto the rails off to the left. Like there's just so many choices. So it's kind of frustrating as you're learning it. I think Icebox though will be more enjoyed because from a theory standpoint, there's so much you can do. But also as you learn the angles, it'll probably be more rewarding. But right now it definitely you can feel cheated because you just get shot from like who knows where and you're like, oh, great. He was actually at this. Like I could have stared at the main, I could have stared at the second level, and because he's Omen, I need to stare at the third level too because he could teleport on top of something on top of that.
He was at the 5th place I was going to look.
Yeah, exactly.
Should have started there.
Pretty much. So
But you do
CS
think ultimately it'll be a good map?
Yes, I do think so. I mean, maybe I think yes, it will be. In its current iteration, I'm not 100% sure. Maybe it does need some map changes. We've really just started scrimming it because it was, of course, banned in for split
Right.
for strike. Sorry, so it wasn't something we've really focused on, or I've spent too much time really theory crafting beyond maybe like 5-10 hours of us hanging around and laughing about some ideas. But ultimately, the map has a lot different to offer than the current maps. I think that's a good thing. And I think that, yes, in its current iteration will be a good map, but it is going to take a long time for people to get used to it. And also, for that same reason, what people hate becomes a strength for other people who are willing to abuse it, and teams are going to have to take that into the back of their heads and learn to love it. Otherwise, it's going to become a major issue in banning strategy for them.
Give us your quick take on Sky as well while we're at it.
Sky is amazing. She offers a completely different way that you can play kind of like the support flashing role. You can throw flashes over people. Her flashes are actually like an audio cue. When you blind somebody, you get that information immediately. Her dog seems interestingly balanced, considering like it's like half strength near sight, where you can kind of see far away but not too far away, and it does damage when you land it. So it has some ups and downsides compared to a Sova drone. And I will say that her healing is also very well balanced, considering she can't heal herself. So like overall, her toolkit is strong, and like we're very excited to explore it. She definitely can have a spot in comps, and her ultimate also is just very interesting because there are so many different ways you could abuse it. Like you could pop it on a rush and just use it as an extra body to absorb damage, as well as force the enemy to adjust crosshair as you're executing out. You could use post plant to prevent them from pre-taking or anything like that, where they immediately come in, or stall their setup for their retake execute. You could use it just in the middle of the execute to throw them off. Like there are so many different ways you can use her ult that I really feel like it's going to be an interesting point, and where you'll kind of definitely see some deviation in Sky players in terms of creativity with it.
I think she ends up making it into the meta pretty consistently. Like she's just got so much that once people master her, she will I think be a better version of like Breach in a sense. I mean, she'll her flashes at least, just the way that they can be used is really awesome. I'm looking forward to seeing her in some upcoming matches and all that. But
Oh yeah,
no,
she definitely
appreciate
could make it in.
yeah, no, appreciate you giving us that insight. I kind of want to ask about something else because I had it on my mind earlier and I didn't bring it up, but um, it made me think of this just thinking of y'all's team in the sense of relatively new or unknown talent in Valorant, right? Do you feel like because of the names that came into this scene, the rankings were kind of set early on, right? Before we even had several tournaments, like rankings were already being thrown out. There's several big sites that do it, VLR, the Spike, and so forth. Um, how much unknown talent do you think is in this scene still? Like untapped, unknown talent out there?
Oh, I think it's right as of right now. There's obviously like a certain limit to it, but kind of my default answer is it is endless. And this is something that you see with when a new game comes out. I'll use Overwatch as the example. The first year pros, the first wave pros, a lot of them didn't end up staying into the second year of Overwatch League, right? A lot of the people who come into the Overwatch League second year are people who were born and bred in competitive Overwatch, ranked Overwatch, etc. So if you look at the life cycle right now of Valorant, a lot of the pros, you have kind of like two waves that have happened. You kind of have the first wave of big names that, from CS, from Overwatch, wherever they come from, they've definitely established a career. They definitely have established themselves as a competitive player, and now they have gotten themselves a roster spot on a big name organization. And then there's the second wave, which are players who never had success in other esports, but were good players. And a lot of the Moon Raccoons fall into this category where they're excellent players, but because of one reason or another, the scene, etc., with the exclusion of Profi, of course, because Profi is a very accomplished PUBG player. He's absolutely amazing at PUBG. The thing about it is that's just the first wave. So a lot of these players, there's going to be another second wave, and especially with Riot now announcing the Champions League coming up next year, that's going to create a drive for that second wave to potentially come faster. But also that means the third wave is going to start brewing. So that's kind of where it's like the challenge of a player, and this is why I always post or push the players to be the best people they can, to really innovate themselves as a person, as a player, because there is always going to be a new player coming up from Valorant, brought up from Valorant. Maybe he played 10 hours of CS, but the first game he loaded up and grinded was Valorant, and he's got something figured out that no one else does because he thought about it differently, right? So we need to be ahead of that if we want to continue to stay at the top. So it's definitely something I think about actively. And to answer your question, theoretically it's endless. As of right now, there are a ton of really accomplished and good T2 and tier 3 players. The issue with the scene and why Moon Raccoons formed, a lot of why me and Rebo stuck together after working together in 303, and when we moved and we made the Moon Raccoons roster, is we were tired of the idea of, at least he was as a player, and I don't like the idea to begin with, where people are always roster hopping in the T2 tier 3 scene. You can't build synergy, you can't build a roster, you can't build anything. And so as a result, our focus was a extensive interview process, extensive tryout process, and even though the second iteration more formed from Fiend and helping out a lot, the goals and the ideas are still there. We want to stay together. So there is a ton of talent. It's hard for a lot of them to prove it, because they don't have a consistent team to push themselves the way they need to.
And I think it's important too, like you were saying, like sticking together and things like that for situations like first strike qualifiers, right? There were so many chances to qualify, and it's like, had there not been a second, UMG qualifying, it would be a completely different story for Moon Raccoons. But because you guys stuck together, you had that second chance. Look at the doors and opportunities it's created.
No, 100%. And even the first time around too, because the match against 100 Thieves, we had, in no way is an excuse. We are 100% learned our lessons, or are still even working through the ones that we didn't. But 100 Thieves was an excellent team, and it was a great match, and we learned a lot. There was a lot of looking in the mirror at ourselves and the experience that the players need to gain in terms of really clutch situations against top tier players like Nitro, like Hiko, and stuff like that, right? So even from the first one, that's where it's like sticking together is so important, because even if that qualifier didn't happen, the UMG, and we, didn't beat FaZe and get into the close, the thing is that the lessons learned from that 100 Thieves match will only come truly realized if the players stick together to learn those lessons together. And again, that's why I think a lot of goals from a lot of teams and coaches I haven't always agreed with, because I think that this idea of consistency outweighs all. right? And so consistency doesn't come from change. It comes from consistent growth and a environment where people can get to know each other, expect things from each other, and then also get trained on, no, don't expect that. Call it, do it instead, right? And really, you don't get to do that kind of stuff. You don't get to mess and really change with those kinds of mental strengths without having that consistency.
Well, excellent. Anuj, anything else?
No, man, just appreciate you coming on, obviously, and huge congrats on the success and continued success. Obviously, we're rooting for you guys and have a special interest to do so. Like it's just it's awesome to see what you guys have done, and we're gonna keep following, man. We're gonna keep rooting for y'all, and whether you sign with an org or don't, or choose to do your own thing, like we're rooting. We're in y'all's corner, and want to see y'all keep going.
Oh, awesome. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys having me on. I had a blast and can't wait for the next year to start. It's gonna be it's gonna be absolutely crazy with the Challengers to Champions series. It's gonna be absolutely amazing.
And
That announcement was huge. That was awesome to see that so early.
maybe you'll be playing there as Moon Raccoons,
Who
or maybe
knows?
you'll be playing there as a newly signed with another org. Who
The
knows?
Charlottes. The
Only the
Charlottes hit 'em
future
up, guys.
holds.
Astralis
Valorant
hit
and
it.
Astralis would be a dream come true for so many of us. It would be absolutely insane.
Real quick, I have two more quick questions for you. NA or EU for Valorant? Which one's better?
So that's kind of a loaded question. I would say right now NA is the better raw region.
That's
NA
right.
is better at taking space and taking ego fights to control stuff. EU is much better at the controlled set style of Valorant. Which one is better? I will tend to lean to NA in the long run because Valorant is not CS. There's abilities, there's movement, there's a different flow to the game. So NA would potentially, assuming we played well at the situation, I think NA would definitely be the better region right now in that regard. But ultimately, both styles are going to have to be understood fully for the first true like international champion level team.
All right. Well, you heard it from Raptors. EU sucks. NA rules. Let's do it, baby.
NA baby.
It's the way it goes. EU's trash. We knew that. That was a trick question. We knew the answer already.
Appreciate your time. Thank you. I know it's tough to do with an expansion out, and so many blessings to you for coming on in the middle of your grind.
Oh
And
no,
we'll
I
hopefully
was
talk
really
to you soon,
excited for
buddy.
this. Thank you so much for having me on. I love being on podcasts. I love talking. So it's a great opportunity. I really appreciate it. You guys have a good one as well.
You too, man. Have a good Thanksgiving.
Thank you, buddy.
Thanks again to Raptors head coach of the Moon Raccoons for joining us. Good dude. Good dude. I really hope. In fact, I guess with Thanksgiving and everything, so I shouldn't be surprised. It's the weekend. But they have to be signed by like the next big Valorant tournament, no?
I mean, you would think so, but it didn't sound the way you and I were kind of discussing it prior to him coming on the show. We were even saying, "Oh, it's a no-brainer," right? Like no-brainer. They got to get signed by somebody, and they probably have like their choice. But after speaking with them, I also didn't believe that that was like they had as much maybe in the mix as like I thought they would have. Right? Don't know what the reasoning is. Maybe they're looking for a certain thing to be done, and orgs don't want to give in on it, or people are still sleeping on them a little bit. But like we both know that they should be signed by now. Like honestly, by now they've kind of proven it at this point, and I think they will. Right?
Yeah.
Like some of these guys needed to be tested a little bit, and they were, and they've passed, and so I think they're seen as a threat, right? And that's the most important thing.
And I am curious too, because it's like I'm looking right now at like rankings for NA Valorant, and they've dipped out of the top 10, which doesn't mean a whole lot. That's just some teams are playing in little tournaments here and there, and others aren't. So that's all that is. Still top 10 caliber roster. So you're not very often you see a top 10 team not be signed, but also it's like there are a lot of teams like had they done this 2 months ago, no doubt they would have already been signed right now. But I am curious to see kind of what orgs are still looking to break into Valorant and sign that. And maybe that's what it is, right? Maybe they're like, look, we're top 10. We don't have to sign with an up and coming org, right? Like top 10, you sign with a big org. So,
And I get that they're also limited in the sense of a lot of the big orgs already in play,
right.
right? Like it's not like there's 20 or 30 of them really lurking out there looking. And so I'm sure that's also part of it, in terms of they want to find a big enough org to be able to support them and pay them salaries that they deserve and so forth. But you also got to look at what's available. We listed a couple last time. I know obviously Fnatic and all that come to
Yeah.
mind, but
E United, I don't have an org that I
yeah,
know
and
of.
so still some available out there, but again, I think they're going to land somewhere soon. I'm excited to see what they do, even if they decide to stay on their own and do their own thing. The name's badass enough
I would say
to
best case scenario is that they become successful enough on their own that we get to keep Moon Raccoons in Valorant.
yeah, for
And I
sure.
think they would instantly become well, I mean, they're already a fan favorite, but if you keep the branding, you would like become an instant fan favorite forever. Also, shout out, I forgot to mention this on the interview, and I hate myself for doing it, but they do have merch currently. If you go to our Twitter, we retweeted it. If you go to their Twitter, it's on their Twitter. But you can buy like shirts and hoodies and things like that. And as far as I know, don't quote me, I think it's 100% goes to like charity. So they're donating everything. It's just they made some shirts and everything for fun.
That's badass.
Yeah. So own yourself some cool Moon Raccoons memorabilia. Who knows how long you'll be able to rock it. So it might be some Valorant history down the road. So there you have it there. Speaking of Valorant history, it's crazy to me that we have been talking about First Strike what seems like forever. And it's just now that we are finally at the actual First Strike tournament. Everything up until now has just been one giant qualifier.
It's a blur in the sense that if you think about it, it's only been a month, right? Since this really started. It started October 26th is when it all kicked off, and we're roughly, roughly a month so far. It's just been so much Valorant, right? Like there's been a qualifier what feels like every 3 to 4 days we have a qualifier going on. Those qualifiers are not your typical, right, like 6 7 teams. I mean, we're talking 16 20 plus teams being involved. You're seeing people playing in back to back qualifiers that are needing to advance. So there was like a lot to keep track of, and I think that was probably difficult for most people to do. But I think you got to enjoy a lot of Valorant. Like you saw a lot of new teams in play, a lot of teams you probably never heard of or never seen before. You got to watch them go through. And I think in the end, we saw that the rankings are fairly accurate. Like these teams that we thought were at the top heading into this event, for the most part, the people that we saw, come through here in the final groupings, final eight.
Yeah, especially if we'll look at NA first, and we'll touch on EU a little bit. But I think NA is where the storylines are at right now with Valorant. Anyways, just until EU really kind of settles out where they're at with it, because there's just not a whole lot there. But for the NA side, yeah, I mean, you have some of the bigger orgs that didn't make it, like your Cloud9. What other's one that I'm just kind of scanning here?
Well, like Anbox didn't make it.
Anbox didn't make it. I'm trying to just pull up the
Gen
last
G
one.
didn't make it. I'm trying to think who else.
Anbox, Gen G. Well, as we mentioned, Moon Raccoons, which is arguably a top 10 team in some rankings that you're looking at, failed to qualify, lost to TSM. Their Dignitas didn't make it through. So, I mean, you do have like top teams that you thought would have made it. I think Cloud9 is one of the more surprising ones that didn't end up qualifying. But you're absolutely right. Like, say what you want about Immortals and Renegades qualifying. Maybe they were benefit from what some people didn't like from a format point of view. But regardless, like, this is still going to be, I think, at the end of the day, well, I'll say that. Hopefully, with the way the esports gods gifted us with a bracket, we will know who the best team in NA is. Because right now, with the way the brackets are working out, you have Envy versus Immortals, Renegades TSM, 100 Thieves T1, which we'll get to in just a second, but then Sentinels and FaZe Clan. So, if you're looking at the hot topic, which is always who's better, TSM or Sentinels, there is a chance, and dare I say a pretty good one, that we see them in the grand finals.
Yeah, I mean it is lined up perfectly, right? Because I think having Envy and TSM on the same side is great. Sentinels. I think Sentinels honestly have a fairly easy run to the finals. Like I think they got hooked up on their side of the bracket. I don't think FaZe is going to be able to compete with them. Um, Honestly, I just don't see that being a very close game, right? Like Sentinels have proven themselves to obviously be an elite team. FaZe we've seen slip up and down and qualify like late to make it in. They made it, but very very tough path for them. And then even on the other side, 100 Thieves being unproven still to a certain extent, right? Like we want to see more from them, but hey, they made it here. They made it early. That was a big part of it. And then T1 again, all the question marks we just constantly
Both
had. And so I think
unproven.
their
Fade,
side is just
yeah, T1 and 100 Thieves, I think to me are very unproven in this sense. T1, I thought, I don't want to say lucked their way into first strike finals with what happened through Immortals and everything like that, but they should have, their role should have been reversed, honestly. Like Immortals should have won their matchup and everything there, and then T1 should have been the ones fighting back to get in. So I still like that 100 Thieves T1 matchup to me, at least for your first round quarterfinals. And again, this is just a single elimination. It's a short bracket, right? It's 8 teams starting in quarterfinals, not double elimination, no bracket resets, nothing. It is your true and true FPS tournament. Everything's a best of 3 up until the grand finals, which is a best of 5. We will see Icebox in this as well as Sky.
I think they're both in play, which I don't like that. Not that I don't. I like the character, and I actually like the map.
Don't give me mid-tournament change.
Not at this point in the tournament. Like, not now. Like,
you have
that seems a little odd, right?
The winner has 3 matches to go, and now you're gonna throw in a new map and character. That doesn't make sense. I feel like they did this with the last event too, when they added Killjoy. It was either when they added Yeah, I guess it had to have been when they added Killjoy.
Well, it was when they added Killjoy. The FaZe event did not allow, like they told the FaZe event people like not to.
Yeah, because I think there was talks that like Riot said it was okay, and then they were like, hey, the tournament, or it was something like that. But this is my point is yes, I agree with you. I don't like the fact that we're heading into the finals, the quarterfinals of this month-long event, and now you're throwing in a new map and an agent. Just doesn't make a whole lot of sense other than Riot wanting to get this out there into the pro scene. But it is very odd. Like imagine, now all of a sudden we're going to see Icebox and Sky and these pros. It would be the first time really seeing her in a live match, regardless of scrims and things like that. But we all know live is different, right? You can't ever mimic what's going to happen in a real match with scrims. Just odd. So I guess that like that, I'll put that as a little asterisk to anything that we say here, right? All of our predictions, everything we talk about, just know Icebox and Sky can mess all that up.
Yeah, like Sky has the ability to be a game changer. Like there's a chance she's picked on every map potentially, right? Like she's gonna have good usage, and I'm assuming they've been grinding. I mean, I know Mixwell and them came out on G2 and spoke saying that they have been working on this map since the moment it released because they knew like, hey, come time for the quarterfinals, like that probably will be a difference maker in a lot of BO5s for sure, right? It's going to be in play. And then best of 3 as well. You're going to see it a handful of times.
Well, especially for how outspoken some of the pros are on the map of not liking Icebox, which I'm no professional, but I love Icebox. So I'm going to assume the pros who are complaining about it just, maybe they just need to get good, Anuj. Maybe they need to be like us.
Again, I get it. There's parts of the map that need to be fixed, and like that'll happen over time, like they've done with other maps. But I think it's going to be fun to see it in play. I just don't know that I like that it's happening at this point in the tournament. But you're right. Kind of going into that matchup, that 100 Thieves T1 matchup. You talk about one of these, if you told me at the beginning of this event that one of these teams was going to be in the semis, I probably wouldn't have bought into it right away, just because 100 Thieves, again, we haven't seen anything from. To where they both are now, they're both going to be riding high coming out of this, depending on as long as somebody doesn't get blown out, right? Like I think they both are going to be feeling pretty good about where they land coming out of this event. I'm excited to see Nitro, Hiko, and like that combination with Steel kind of leading the IGL slot. What they can do now that they've had like a month of practice, essentially, right, together, and see what they bring to the table. Is Steel still playing on Killjoy? I'm excited to see what those two groups right there do.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like 100 Thieves have kind of been, I mean, apart from just First Strike, you're right. Like this roster itself, you just haven't seen as much as others. So a lot of question marks with the 100 Thieves 2-1 matchup, but definitely I think, is going to be intriguing to watch. I think another interesting matchup is going to be Team Envy and Immortals, just because with Team Envy looking excellent, like top 5 team for NA, really just kind of out of nowhere, right? They made some roster moves and all of a sudden kind of put some pep in their step and they're looking good going up against Immortals, which kind of the talk of qualifiers, right? One of their players had to get rushed to the hospital in the middle of a match, which they ended up winning that map but losing the match. Then they ended up fighting their way back with a sub player and now have qualified. So like, could they carry that? I know it's been a while, but can they carry that momentum, that feel good story into this matchup to catch Envy off guard? I don't know, probably not. But either way, I will quietly, just for everything that happened in the qualifiers, I am quietly rooting for Immortals.
Yeah, I feel bad for Envy because I just feel like people have been sleeping on them, and they kind of still are, almost, is what it feels like, right? Like I don't think for whatever reason they're not getting like the respect. I think from just
They're
I
not.
mean
Look, this is
really
why though. They're not getting respect because they were not part of the first wave into Valorant, right? Which we've seen, just teams that weren't early into Valorant missed out on that early kind of attention.
Yeah, and when you say early, like they were early, just not.
I mean,
the
like
first
yeah,
group
exactly.
that was
Like
in.
when
Yeah.
right. Like the first 5 big orgs that went in is what I would say. But they also, and no disrespect to the roster, they don't have that flashy name that moved over from CS. They have guys that moved over to CS, FNS in one of them, which I know you and I really like. We have always been fans of FNS. Even from his CS days, I felt like maybe he was getting the wrong rap, right, on some situations. But that's not, like, FNS isn't going to sell out tickets, right? So they are missing that streamer, that big player moved over from Overwatch, or historical CS player moving over. They don't have that. So I will say they're not like they make it work, but they're not like the sexy team.
No, for sure. I mean, this is kind of the team of. It almost feels like because of when they came in, it's a team of like leftovers, right? Like what was left at that time, and let's see if we can put a roster together, right? Because like FNS, obviously longtime CS player, but in many people's eyes was on the downhill side of his career in Counter Strike. Well, guess what? This is not CS, right? And he is like a premier level player once again in Valorant. Caboose has been just like a longtime MDL player, and then Food and Crashies were booted off of a team already. And how many times does that happen where you see people get kicked off of a team and just the stigma around that player is that he doesn't belong on a team because he got kicked off of one, right? And that's not fair that happens, but it's something that does. It's like just human nature for that to maybe cross your mind when you're considering picking up somebody. Is just
They're
looked
sloppy
at as,
seconds.
exactly. And they have taken on Food and Crashies, integrated them in beautifully. And I think that's the power of FNS, right? FNS has always had the ability to help develop talent, develop players. And not to say that he's sitting here developing these guys, but he knows how to utilize what he has. And Food and Crashies have been the all-stars for this team. I mean, Caboose obviously as well is just an amazing fragger, but these new guys that they've brought in have changed the dynamic completely of Envy. And I mean, I'm really excited for that Envy Immortals matchup. However, like I think Envy is just the better team, and Immortals is again a feel good story and like happy to be involved in the the final showdown. Um, but Envy, I think definitely belong here, and people are sleeping on them for that
Yeah.
reason, and they're
I-
gonna surprise some people. Like look, even against like teams like TSM, they've shown the ability to
yeah.
play well. Like it's not like they're beating everybody else besides Sentinels and TSM. Like they compete with those guys quite well, and so
I think Envy would have to be like your dark horse pick, which is weird saying like a top 5 team is your dark horse pick, but for every reason that we've just said, I would easily think that they could take TSM and then make their way into the finals and beat whoever's there. So,
yeah, like the only team that really has their number like 100% is Sentinels. So that's still a hurdle that they're gonna have to climb. I don't know if they've actually ever beaten Sentinels. They've lost to them probably 4 or 5 times now. That would be the one hurdle, for them to get over. But anybody else, I think they should be very confident against.
I feel like Envy is like this year's Tennessee Titans. Like you kind of have to Google who their QB is because you forget each week, and they don't really have a star wide receiver. But you know what? Their defense is solid despite not having some crazy pass rusher. So it's like they just find a way to win, and they don't need the glitz and glamour, right? Like give that to other big orgs and everything like that. Like I said, I definitely like if they can get over. I mean, I say if they can get over the TSM hump. If they can get over TSM, then they're in the grand finals because there's only 3 rounds on this. But obviously, I think TSM is going to be their only challenge. Which, speaking of TSM, even though they've looked good as of late, I think the reason teams are shaky or people are shaky to commit them into the number 1 spot versus Sentinels is because we have seen TSM kind of waver here and there. Like I said, at least they finished the UMG tournament on a high. But don't forget the reason they could only finish the UMG tournament on a high is because they finished Nerd Street Gaming on a low.
Yeah, the original qualifiers.
Right. That's the other thing, right? Is TSM, FaZe Clan, T1, Immortals, all these guys made it in on the second chance.
Yeah, and they lost to Cloud9, and Cloud9 didn't end up making it. Of all things, which is crazy. If we're going to use a football analogy, this matchup right here is like the winner of the NFC East taking on the number 1 seed in the playoffs. Like this is a lopsided matchup. Like I would expect TSM should 2-0 this, and if they don't, they're going to be feeling a little nervous, I think, in the sense of like if Envy or somebody else comes slamming through in that next round, like they need to be dominant in a matchup like this. Renegades, look, they made it. Like that's awesome for them. Like that really is. It's a huge accomplishment. Maybe they come out there and show me that they're really are like a top 5 team, competing in this event, but they got a little lucky, and that happens. And there's always a Cinderella story. This is usually where those stories, I think, end. This is kind of that spot of the Elite 8, the Final 4, where Cinderella really never makes it to the last dance, and I would expect that to happen here too.
Don't you just feel like that's like the story of Renegade's life? Like no matter what game Renegades are in, they're always just that team that's just like, you should be happy to be invited. You should be happy to be here. Congratulations on qualifying. Super happy for you, but
like you're lucky you play in Australia.
Good luck. Good luck. So, well, yeah, I agree with everything you said. And then that last matchup here, Sentinels and FaZe Clan, which, again, FaZe Clan, much like 100 Thieves and T1, I put all 3 of those in the same tier. Like, they have the potential to be like a top 5 team. And I will say top 10, even though I know some of them are in top 10, but like a confidence top 10. Right now, you're top 10 by default just because there's not a whole lot of teams that have played enough or there's enough events to really have a solidified top 10. So right now you're there, but I mean like a confidence, like, ooh, I look at you and I can tell you're a top 10 team. I don't do that with any of them. So I would still think Sentinels, despite them being a little shakier as of late, I still just think you don't count them out.
Yeah, I mean, Sentinels is gonna should obliterate FaZe Clan in this matchup. I would think Sentinels just they're so good, like they really are, and for whatever reason, like I'm not on that Sentinels bandwagon, like in the sense I'm just you look at Cloud9 in Liquid and CLG early days NACS. You weren't really a fan of all three, right? You kind of picked your horse and you ran with them, and like for me, it hasn't been Sentinels for whatever reason, and so I just know that they are really good though. Like I
Yeah.
won't deny them that they are a dominant team. They're the most consistent, right? At least out of everyone's undisputed number one. They're the most consistent team. They're never an easy out. Like very rarely do they drop a game by a handful of rounds, if they drop one at all. And so, and they got an easier path to a certain extent on their side of the bracket. And so, I mean, for Sinatra, if he keeps doing what he's doing, Dapper and these guys are just they're consistent players, and they were like good. The thing with Sentinels compared to some of these other teams, Tim, is like a lot of other teams got leftovers from their previous esport, right? Like they were good to average players at best, right? Like nobody was like an all-star. Nobody was like a really highly touted longtime T1 player, right? Like Nitro comes to mind as an example of somebody like that. Sentinels is kind of filled with a lot of like people that have played consistently in tier one in their esport, right? You got Sinatra, the freaking MVP, champion, everything you want to name it, World Cup champion. He's kind of done it all in his previous esport. Shazam has played tier one Counter Strike for as long as I can remember. He's been playing at the highest level of CS. Think what you want of him as an op or how he did individually in Counter Strike. He was good enough to like stay on those rosters consistently and kind of move his way around, right? Six, same thing. Just moved up into not just moved up. He'd been playing tier one for quite some time. Dapper kind of dabbled in and out of it. So these guys are built with like people with high level experience in their previous games, and that's really showing. Even in their matchups here, like that's why I think they kind of have a mental edge over teams like Envy and tend to perform well against teams like TSM, where a team like 100 Thieves might be able to give them a little bit more trouble. A team like T1 might be able to give them a little bit more trouble than some of what we would consider the top ranked team. So I am curious to see how they do in that second round matchup against either T1 or 100 Thieves. But I think the first round matchup against FaZe, should be pretty easy work for them.
So who do you have winning it all?
Do we want to do that on this one? Or do we want to come back Wednesday and talk
Um,
about first round matchups and finals?
So when does it actually kick off?
The third on Wednesday. So
On Wednesday. So we would, by the time we record on Wednesday, we will have at least a couple rounds. We'll have
the semis locked up, and we should have the
we'll have court. No. So
we'll be like have the semifinal matchups, right?
No. So 100 Thieves, the bottom half of the bracket, play on Thursday.
Oh. Okay, should we just do predictions then?
Yeah, just give winner. I mean, there's no point in just a 3-round event. I will say my winner. Honestly, I think it's either going to come out at the top. It's either going to be Envy or TSM. Just from a track record, I'm going to give it to TSM. I'm not confident in it. Again, we can definitely talk about this again in a future episode when we have the brackets more in place. But how they perform on Wednesday might change my mind. But right now, I think TSM.
Okay. To make it fun, because I think this is probably most likely going to be our matchup, is I'm going to take Sentinels to win it all. Again, I think their first round matchup is something that they should be able to handle well. I do think they win that second round matchup, although they could be a toss up. So I think they have a little bit of an easier road where TSM versus Envy to me is like a 50-50 toss up game, and I find that really hard to project who's going to take that one. And I think it's a little easier to project Sentinels making it through to the grand finals. So betting odds will tell me Sentinels is probably the way to go.
My hope is that Icebox, and I think Icebox is going to benefit TSM depending on how they play it, but if they play it like everyone talks about with, taking advantage of verticals and things like that, I think that would help out Wardell in his case, but I guess you could make a case for that on everyone's team, but we'll see.
Can I tell you my dream finals matchup?
Yeah.
Because that seems like a little easier and more fun
Yeah.
for me. I want to see 100 Thieves Envy in the finals. That would be the finals I'd really want to see. I would love to see, obviously Hiko and Nitro and these guys like still have what it takes and with the practice time and Steel and all these guys, like I would love to see them compete in the grand final in Valorant. And then, Envy, like I said, I think people are sleeping on them. And that gets me a little excited and juiced for them to make a run. So that would be that'd be fun. I'd even take like a T1, if they could make it through just for the storyline side. But
Not
either
T1.
one of those teams in there.
Not T1.
That would be a badass story, though.
It is amazing what one man on a roster can do for my excitement of that roster, but that's the case. That's the world we live in. That's the world we live in, and I'm not going to apologize for it. I was a huge T1 fan up until one man, and that just changed everything. And that's just who I am as a person, and I don't have to apologize for that. Looking on the EU side, real quick here, because again, it's not as spicy as NA in my opinion, but we do
in
have
everybody's opinion, not just in yours. In everyone's opinion, it's not nearly as spicy.
It's it's just EU for whatever reason they're not there yet. But don't worry, because I'm sure then they will be, and then they'll overtake NA just like they do in everything else. So, but for now, you don't. So we're gonna soak it up while we can. So you do have, G2 is obviously your clear favorite going into it. That's it.
That wraps up the EU segment for
EU
us.
side.
So it's funny because like the whole back and forth NA EU thing, everyone's gonna say like G2 has the ability to beat any NA team, right? Probably same thing with Liquid. Probably same thing with Fun plus Phoenix. Any of those teams can compete with any of the NA teams, and if they were to play in like this world championship, right? EU might win that matchup, and then everyone's gonna say EU is the best region of all time, right? But NA is so much deeper when it comes to the talent pool for Valorant right now, and I don't know why that is. Maybe just Counter-Strike isn't as big here as it is in Europe, and a lot of those people weren't willing to change over because their region is exciting and fun to watch. It has all the star players and all that stuff, so people are maybe more intrigued by it in that sense. But NA is just so deep compared to this. Like we have so many orgless teams like competing, in this final 8 here for EU, and or the team Orgless is Prodigy. They were Prodigy prior to that. They were the ones with Happy on the team. They're now Orgless going into this event. So it's just
which
G2 is
they always were Orgless, to clarify. They changed their name to be
from
more
Prodigy,
to be more transparent of like, yo, sign us. Someone
hey,
sign
Fnatic
us.
or someone, please, like, look at us over here. Yeah, the only thing that sucks for me on this is I really wanted to see Liquid on the other side of the bracket. I hate that our semifinals matchup could potentially be G2 versus Liquid here. I would have liked to have seen that have a chance to be the finals matchup, and I think it would have been fair for Fun Plus and Liquid to have to determine who plays G2, although G2 kind of got in on a sticky situation also. But outside of that, they've proven obviously they are the best. Like they are best in class in Valorant in Europe right now, and so there's no doubting that. And I would have liked that matchup to just not happen in that moment. I think that's a tough spot for them, but G2 to me is the clear favorite here. somebody's gonna have to knock them off to prove us otherwise. Like I just don't know how you would pick against them.
So you're talking about how top heavy or, not deep the EU side of Valorant is. Do you want some fun numbers? Let's
Yeah,
have
give me.
fun with numbers here on the Centering Esports podcast. We have, this is just for teams that are in this event. A handful of them. G2 is on a 17 win streak. Fun Plus Phoenix is on a 12 win streak. Team Heretics, 11 win streak. Liquid is on a 6. Nolpenki, is that how you say that? 6 win streak. What are some other teams here? Orglis, 7 win streak. That's pretty standard. Summon FC, SUMN. I assume you say that as Summon FC, an 18 win streak. So just of the top 4 there, you have G2 17, Fun Plus 12, Summon 18, Team Heretics 11. That's
Guys
pretty.
don't lose.
That is some pretty. That's the definition of top heavy.
Yeah, I mean the only teams that like big orgs that didn't make it that you kind of I wanted to see Guild in the mix here.
Yeah.
Like, that would have helped this grouping again. Them getting knocked out and then also disqualified from that one matchup didn't help them against G2. Nip also not qualifying like kind of hurts this pool. Forza again, big like these are some of the big name orgs that are involved from the EU side that didn't make it through to the final 8. Gambit included there. So a little lackluster until we get, I think, to the finals here. Like I think the finals is where the excitement is really going to pick up. I think Liquid Heretics is going to be a really tough first round matchup. Everybody else, the people you would expect to move through, the G2s, the FPXs, like Will. But yeah, I kind of waiting for the grand finals in EU. That's what I'm going to check out. Like that's what I want to see. I want to see G2 and probably Fun Plus go head to head and see if they can be toppled. That's going to be what that's all about.
I have a proposition for you.
Yep.
So I'm looking at the world rankings for Valorant, and right now I'm looking at the MENA, which is the Middle East, I believe is what it is. I go to their top 10, and I go to their world rankings, and there are only 10 teams.
I'm down.
You thinking what I'm thinking? Like we could take a vacation, a 3-week long vacation, knock out as many tournaments as we can. And then we could say that we were a top 10 Valorant team.
My family still owns their house in India. If we need a place to stay, it's got internet, everything over there.
So that's Asia, correct?
Yeah. Is this not
Asia? I would assume you'd be Asia Pacific, but maybe not. That's not really. Does that count? You would know more than me.
It is Asia.
But Asia's kind of big.
East,
like to
but
say
I was
Asia.
thinking, I was thinking maybe they would just be like, you know what, like China, Korea, Philippines, Indonesia, Japan, we're gonna lump you all together. Russia, you're gonna be your own thing. India, we're gonna loop you in with the Middle East because it's not fair for y'all to have to go against the real Asians.
Yeah, you guys are fake Asians.
Yeah, like that wouldn't be fair in gaming. Like that. Put them up against us in a spelling bee. We'll take that bracket.
Yeah.
But not gaming. Like that's not fair. So India should be looped in. But India is looped in with Asia Pacific because the Velocity Gaming is the number 2 team in Asia, and they're an Indian team. They're right behind Absolute Jupiter, so who's like kind of touted as a monster team out of Japan. So India is in the Asia side, so we'd be screwed there. We'd have to move to like legit Middle East to make that happen. Like we're going Iran, Iraq. We go to Bahrain. That'd be sick.
I mean,
cool.
The only thing we have going for us is that we're men. Like, so we're instantly ahead of like half the population.
Bro, I look like them, so I'm
good.
Okay. You are the problem child here.
I would last 10 minutes.
Yeah, no, you would stick out. You would stick out. And that's okay. Depending on where you go, that's okay,
Maybe. I could
Like,
be
we're
the
not going
white
into the middle of a
prodigy
war
for
zone
the
to go
Middle
play.
East Valorant scene. Who knows? All right, so we'll figure that out. Maybe TCR become an official Middle Eastern Valorant team. We could sponsor someone. You know, see how that goes. So anyways, for EU, obviously, I think both of us would pick G2.
Yeah, easy. Like,
Easy. I mean,
easy.
why would you go against
Easy.
them?
I don't really know. Yeah.
Why would you
I
go
don't even
against
know what
them?
I would say.
So NA, that starts up on the 3rd. So just a day after, what's that, Thursday? Starts on Thursday. EU also 3rd? Did I see that right? Yes, also the 3rd. So much like before, though, that is going to be all-day action because you're going to have EU early in the morning and NA to wrap up the night. So looking for some good Valorant action here later in the week and into the weekend. So definitely pumped. Definitely excited. Definitely excited. All right, let's get into some e-news to wrap up the show. For CSGO, which is actually funny. I wish I said this on air, but I didn't. I said this after we recorded. Cloud9 replaces Evil Geniuses in DreamHack Masters after they pull out of all international events. Evil Geniuses blaming COVID. So that's real original. Blaming COVID. Can't do the international travel. So they're sticking here in the States. So obviously Cloud9 being, I haven't looked at the rankings, but #1 in CS at the moment, were invited. So, which I actually said, Anuj can give me credit. After the show, I was like, if I were these tournament organizers, I would be getting Cloud9 into my events one way or the other, just because it would get views.
And look, the TO gave everybody COVID just to get them in. So
TO made international flying rules and said, nope, can't do that.
yeah, no, it's funny because even though you said it after the show, it's still on stream. I guess
That's
it
true.
would be there.
That's
It's
true.
alive. It's out there. But yeah, no, this makes sense. Look, you're gonna get Cloud9 into as many events as you can right now. If you're a TO, they're back, Tim. They're back, kind of.
They're back for now because Cloud9 ended up, they ended up falling to Mouse Sports in the semifinals of Blast Pro Series. However, they were able to beat, why am I blanking here?
Complexity.
Well, so yeah, they beat Complexity and Nip to start off the week, and then Complexity beat them 2-0, losing to Mouse Sports 2-0. Beat Complexity 2-1, excuse me.
Yeah, I mean, hey, that was a hell of a run. Like their matchup against Complexity.
Well, and first off, it's not even like Mouse Sports could have been cheating. So that's not even official yet that Mouse Sports didn't cheat to win. So right now, the results aren't in. The results don't speak. They don't decide. The rounds don't decide who wins, Anuj. I think it's more or less the tournament organizers, and we're looking for a recount. And until the results are back, until I hear back officially, I want to see reports.
Round count is in, at least in the Complexity matchup. That series was actually pretty badass. If
It
you
was
didn't get to watch
badass, but let's be real. Cloud9 won. I'm going to take off my Cloud9 fanboy hat. They might not had a reason. They should not have won that. Okay, I'm going to put back on my Cloud9 fanboy hat. They dominated. They lost map #1. They could have given up on Nuke, but instead dominated on Mirage. And then Dust 2, I think at that point, and if you go back and watch it, Complexity was playing scared. They were not pushing through smokes. They were immediately getting smoked off on Cat and then backing up, or they would get smoked off like pushing long, and then they would try to rotate back, which on Dust 2 is very difficult because really it's a long walk if you're pushing back from long to go around your spawn. Like if you're doing that, you are ultimately then committing to B, right? Like that's just how Dust 2 works. And they were playing scared. They were getting trapped. I think that was ultimately Complexity's undoing, but it was nice to see Cloud9 winning again.
I mean, they had to go on a hell of a run to win that, right?
Yeah.
They won the last 6 rounds. They won the last 9 out of 10, to take that third map. And so that was a crazy game. Like that was a really good game for them to close out on. Obviously, today against Mouse, like that's not. You don't want to go out in 2-0 fashion, right? Like that sucks. Vertigo was a tough map for them. It didn't look very prepared. Like Mouse really dominated Vertigo. Vertigo was a lot closer.
Anuch. Death, taxes, mouse sports in the fall. You don't mess with any of them. Okay? You don't bet against mouse sports in the fall. You just don't. There is something about the holiday season. It's either every other team is mentally checking out and mouse sports is ramping up, or it's go time for them because they dominate this time of year. This is mouse sports time of year after year. Now, January is a different story. They'll go back to sucking. But for right now, I mean, they will be my favorite.
This is their rise to number one.
Yeah, this will be, by the end of this, they'll be top 5 again for like a month. Sure. And then it will all come crashing down.
It will all be hyped up for 2021.
Yep.
And then Kerrigan gets sold to FaZe.
We'll have a conversation about how, man, is this mouse sports real? Oh, can they survive the break? No, yep, okay, yep. Might as well just go and pull the last 2 years worth of audio from our January episodes and just replay that for mouse because it's the same every year. But nonetheless, I will say one last thing about Cloud9. And it's more or less just to call out Decay and Thorn on Twitter. So they love, Thorn especially, but I think Decay is also guilty of this. They love to, I think, see like 2 or 3 people comment on Reddit. And then those 2 or 3 people will then eventually turn into everyone, right? Like it's one person on Reddit says something, and then Thorn goes to Twitter and goes, everyone on Reddit is saying this. And it's like, in reality, it was like 3 or 4 people who said it, right? Or it's just people trolling and being funny that Cloud9 loses one game and they suck, right? We even did it on this show, right? They lost one match and I said to fire everything and blow it up. So that's what they did. They were stroking their egos when they won their first game. But I will also say this. Let's pump the brakes. 2 matches, although they did look good, they looked miles ahead of what Cloud9's looked like for the last year or 2. But still, take everything this time of year with a grain of salt. The holidays and Counter-Strike are notorious for false positives. Notorious for false positives. You look at a team, they dominate, and then you go into next year and they suck. You look at a team now and they'll lose 2 or 3 events that they should have won, and then next year they'll go right back to winning the major, right? It's the holidays in CS. You just enjoy it for what it is, but just know it's chaos.
It's like everybody's playing on a contract year for the last 3 months.
Yeah.
You know, like it's just, there's some teams that will sit back and enjoy the holidays and they're in a comfortable position and they don't have to worry until some big events are coming around. So there's others that are fighting for their lives or have something to prove. And Cloud9's one of those teams. I think Mouse Sports is one of those teams. Mm-hmm. Hell, and even on the other end, you know, we don't even have them here in show notes, but like, you know, Furia and Liquid, like both also have a lot to prove. Furia went over to EU, got stomped. Liquid can't beat Furia and failed to do so again. So we do have Mouse Sports and Furia advancing through to the Premier Fall Showdown for Blast Pro, eliminating Cloud9 and Liquid, the great NA hopes. But yeah, you're right. Like there's a lot going on with the NA side of things, and this is just a start. We're going to enjoy this all in the next year.
Yep, and so now we have our officials for Blast Premier Fall. This is their big thing that's been leading up to for the last, I think, like pretty much all year, pretty much, if I remember correctly. So that is starting December 8th. We'll talk about it next episode, but all teams have qualified there. So we'll discuss that for Thursday's show. In other CS news, North has benched MSL and AZ.
Yeah, I'm not even sure. There might have even been more in there, but I think I know those 2 for sure were benched. And look, it's kind of a matter of time with that roster. There's changes were going to need to be made. I don't know if those 2 were necessarily the issue and like things are all of a sudden going to get better.
Got to mix it up though.
Yeah.
People are forgetting you're an org. Like, when was the last time we mentioned North other than their owner backing up or whatever he was, right? Their owner or team manager, someone left.
Not good when you keep getting mentioned for people leaving, right? Like Valde leaving was the last big thing that they did.
Yeah. So,
Right? So
you know, we'll see. Stay hard, North. In Overwatch, Super has announced that he is rejoining Shock for 2021. I believe, as far as the way the announcement was worded, for one last go. So this might be his retirement year for Overwatch. We'll see. But Super is going for the three-peat. He's got the back-to-back. He's going for the three-peat. So, look, that's cool. Like, I like that. I like that he's kind of a ride-or-die homie in that situation. And if he's telling him ahead of time, like, look, I'm in, but this is going to be my last run, you know, hats off. He's going to be going down as one of the greats, regardless of what happens this year.
wonder if it's a good or a bad thing that he mentioned that ahead of time, right? Rather than just saying he's coming back versus he's coming back for his last year. Because like now, every single interview, every single question, everywhere you go, assuming we're going places next year, you're gonna have to talk about that, right? You're gonna have to answer questions around that. And look, you know, if you want that attention and you know you want that story and like added pressure, whatever, you know, you want that, good for you. Like go for it, do it. But I don't know if that's like a great thing to mention your last ride, just because again, it does put a lot of pressure on you. And
in reality, though, he had to mention it was his last year, so that way he could start taking conversations for Valorant rosters. So
do you know
it's a
if
head
that's
start.
like, do you know if that's what it is by chance? Like, is there any rumors in terms of what?
I mean,
next
what
move
else is he
is?
gonna do? Like, if you're retiring from Overwatch, what else? You're not gonna go play Counter-Strike, right? Like that's the game.
He
you
doesn't
go
play
to.
hit scan, does he?
No, but I mean, neither did Sinatra. Sinatra was kind of known for his Zarya, and she's a laser beam character. Like, he wasn't
Yeah.
like some crazy sniper. So
Yeah, that's true.
he played Doomfist. Doomfist is the exact opposite of Hitscan.
You gotta aim for the head.
Yeah, so it's like it's just, you know, I think we've learned that doesn't. I mean, there was a lot of support players. Ruckus plays for FaZe. He was a support player. He wasn't hit scan. So don't necessarily need to be a hit scan to make that transition. In Valorant, we did have the global circuit for Valorant was announced for 2021. We'll discuss this in greater details in future episodes, but it's good to know, like, we talk so much on this show about how there's other esports out there where you just don't know what's going on. I mean, hell, Call of Duty League, we still don't know when that's officially starting for next year. We still don't know the game modes or the maps, or, you know, like, there's still so much question marks for that. And yet Riot has kind of given down the roadmap for next year's events, COVID pending, right? Of course. So we'll talk about that more in a future episode. So it's just
For
good
COD,
to know.
it is control is what they're throwing in there, taking the place of domination. So,
But that's it, though. Right?
yeah, it's the other ones are the core ones.
Right,
so
right.
Hard points,
No
Search and Destroy.
CTF.
Yeah. And then the maps, it's funny because the game dropped and everybody knew the map pool because there's only
Well,
5 maps.
yeah.
Like, there's only 5 6v or 4v4 maps. So kind of funny. Like they haven't announced it, but it's like, oh, okay, we kind of know.
And then for the rule sets, it's Call of Duty. The players will make up GAs. Why?
Bro,
why?
the GA rumor hit mill is crazy right now. We'll go over that at some point.
I've seen them on
as
Twitter,
we
though.
yeah, it's like
There's
crazy.
no
just-
point in throwing COD GAs and E-News because it will literally change. First off, it will take an entire show to go over, and it changes every hour, it seems.
Yeah.
So what was a pro killed by last? That's GA'd out. You killed me with this attachment? GA it.
Get it out.
Get it out of here. Oh, I couldn't see you because of smoke? GA smokes, which is not a joke. They've GA'd smokes. So, another Valorant CS news, Zywoo. Don't have a heart attack. Zywoo is not leaving for Valorant yet. But he was a stand-in for a French Valorant tournament.
Played well. Looked good. I saw a couple highlights on Twitter.
Listen,
Dude's just nutty.
when you have people like Scump, who was yelling that people are trying to control what he plays or streams, this is why, right? Like, they do not need, like, no one wants to see Zywoo dominating in Valorant right now. If you're a CS fan, you're like, oh, damn it.
I start sweating.
Yeah, like, please suck. Please suck. Don't leave CS, please. In League of Legends, we did have a huge retirement as TSM Double Lift announced that he is retiring from professional league play.
Yeah, I mean, that's like, I don't know if it's surprising. You know, we talked about this when, you know,
He can,
who just retired. I just had a brain fart. No, who just retired?
well, he was, don't ask me about League of Legends players. He was the other.
Anyways, we kind of
He was
talked
the other
about his
TSM, he was like the
mindset and
coach.
what Double Lift
He moved on
was
to be a coach.
thinking at that point, like if he was going to stay, and he even hinted at the fact that he had thought about retirement and wondering what he was going to do. But this is another legend from the NA scene gone, and somebody's going to have to step up to fill his shoes. But
At least he can now date his owner.
Yeah, now he's
Don't
no
have
longer
to file that
violating
violating
HIPAA
don't
laws
have to
there.
report to HR anymore. So one less
That's gotta be
thing
nice.
one less thing to worry about. Envy ends up winning the RLCS X regional champs. I think is 10, right?
Yeah.
Roman numerals, you never know. The 10 regional champs, go on their Twitter. The most beautiful fake kickoff you have ever seen, Anuj. And like it makes it even more beautiful because it didn't happen in a game with us. Like if we do what they just did, if you go and watch it, you'd be like, oh, that was awesome, but 100% by mistake. Like when they do it, you're like, shit, that was a setup. Like you 100% practiced that 1,000 times and it worked. In the finals, no less. So very
I'm going to check that out right now.
do it. It's pretty, I mean, very clean. In other news here, though, we did have OGN, a legendary Korean TV network. As far as I know, the first full-time esports TV network in the world. Started back in July of 2000. Sad to say that there are reports that they are shutting down, as the Nielsen's viewership ratings for OGN was a 0.005 in September, making it the lowest rated channel in Korea. Yikes.
That's pretty rough.
That's not a good look. Not a good look. So once again, OGN, if you've Overwatch, StarCraft, League of Legends, like you would just naturally recognize these letters and you always knew it was a Korean event. Even if they have been around for this long and even they can't figure out esports on TV, I don't know how that bodes well for esports on TV. We get it all the time. We've gotten in our Ask Us Anythings. Do we think esports will be on TV? And we've always said yes, but not right now. And this might be how it works. I don't know. I mean, it's
I wonder if it's like also not the right types of games being broadcasted, right?
Yeah.
Like maybe what's popular there are also not like visually appealing TV type games, right?
Yeah. My worry is just streaming is too convenient, right? Like why? I mean, I guess if they paid for it, right? If they paid for broadcasting rights, it would be different. But why do something on TV when Riot can do everything in-house on their own Twitch channel? You know what I'm saying? Like, unless you
sell
just
their own ad space.
Yeah, sell their own. I mean, unless you just do what traditional sports does and you're buying a broadcasting right. Like Fox pays the NFL X amount of money to do these games and things like that. But just goes, I mean, weeks after we just shit on ESPN for dropping esports, not knowing what they're doing, you have an actual esports company dropping out entirely. So is this COVID related? I don't think so, right? If you're playing in a 0.005 rating, you would think during times of COVID and everyone standing inside, you should be doing the exact opposite. So who knows? That just, very interesting that even an esports TV channel is just not pulling off esports on TV very well.
Yeah, I can't figure it out.
No. And last but not least, if you watched the Mike Tyson fight last night, we also had Jake Paul knock out Nate Robinson.
Dude, memes came from that left and right. That was, good for Jake. I don't like him.
I don't
I don't
him.
like either of them.
No.
I don't like either of them. I think they're both just little shithead kids, but
I will say this too, and I am not a fighter unless I play hockey. Then I'm a fighter.
everybody becomes a fighter when you play hockey, though.
Yeah, but I'm definitely that guy that got in a fight in a beer league. If Jake Paul actually fought a boxer, I think he would be murdered.
It's funny because there's a lot of sparring sessions out there of him. Like, he trains very hard. And he trains against ex-pros and he takes it because of his job. It allows him to do pretty much whatever the hell he wants to do.
Well, yeah, when you're a
and make
millionaire 20-something-year-old.
Well, even if you say, I want my job to be a professional boxer, well, then now you're vlogging the day in the life of Jake Paul at the gym, and guess what? That's still going to net him 1 million+ views. And so he has put a lot of it's funny because I've seen some stuff on this. He's put in a lot of time.
I'm not denying that. It's just when you're seeing him fight, it still looks like all that training goes out the window, and he's just flailing.
A lot of it is
around.
also the other guy you're fighting is also just throwing wild haymakers.
Right.
It makes it a little crazy,
Yeah.
But yeah, hey, it's cool for the YouTube community. Honestly, I know he's not a gamer, but he's more associated with that world than somebody like Nate Robinson, who is seen as athlete versus esports.
Well, did you hear?
Expand...
Did you hear Mike Tyson's post-event interview?
No, what did he say?
He said that the fact that UFC was beating boxing, right? UFC was killing boxing, which, my opinion, boxing is better than UFC, but who cares? He actually credited, he says, we have YouTubers now wanting to box and not UFC fight, and this YouTuber can get 250 million people watching boxing. And he said, he goes, thank you to YouTube and thank you to the YouTubers for saving boxing. And it's it's kind of nuts, but he's not wrong.
No, not at all. The Paul brothers, both of their fights that they've done, Jake Paul fighting KSI, these were massive,
Selling out stadiums
for
not boxers.
Selling pay-per-view. These guys walked out with millions on these deals, and they're right. It is drawing attention to boxing. I think from the era we grew up in, we're naturally going to most likely be more boxing fans.
Yeah.
If you're not a big fan of that stuff in general, right? It's not like I watched a lot of boxing or I watched a lot of UFC. I don't watch a lot of it, but I grew up in a time of the Tysons and the Roy Jones Juniors. These guys were the big dogs in my time, and so I gravitate towards that more. And it is cool, if it gives it more attention. And
also, Fight Night is a top 10 game.
Yeah, boxing is just the most rigged sport ever. That's why I don't care for boxing.
Yeah.
UFC, the nice thing about it is it can't be rigged. You're gonna knock that dude out. You're gonna know who's gonna win that fight. The other guy's usually laying in a pool of blood at the end of the fight.
Yeah.
It is boxing. It shit seems so rigged half the time.
Yeah. What can you do? But all right, there you have it. No more rigged than the Mountain Dew League.
Yeah.
Boxing or Mountain Dew League? What is more rigged?
No, Mountain Dew League for sure.
Saw an article online saying that a CS player reported that he was offered $2,000 to throw a match.
With what they're making, that's half the salary. That might not be a bad deal.
I was gonna say that just goes to show, right? People ask oh, how can you throw something? It's it's only $2,000. Well, $2,000 to a 19-year-old in the Mountain Dew League. Take yourself back when you were 19. $2,000 might as well have been $1 million. So there you go. That's it. That will do it for this episode of The Center Ring, aka TCR, aka your favorite esports podcast. Episode 291. It's done. It's in the books. Thank you so much for listening. If you skipped around, jumped around, love you all the same. We will be back Wednesday night to record Thursday's episode, talk a little Blast Premiere, discuss the first part of First Strike and quarterfinals and everything there, and whatever else comes up. Follow us on Twitter at The Center Ring and join the conversation in our Discord and everything there. But for Anuj, I'm Tim. Love you. See you next time.